The Vikings. The very word evokes images of fierce warriors, long ships sailing through icy waters, and tales of raids and conquests. But who were these enigmatic people who left such an enduring mark on history? The Vikings emerged from Scandinavia, a region encompassing present-day Denmark, Norway, and Sweden. Their story begins long before their infamous raids, rooted in the cold, rugged landscapes of their homelands. These were not simply brutal barbarians but skilled seafarers, traders, and explorers. Their saga is one of complex cultural interactions, economic pursuits, and a profound impact on the course of European history. For centuries, the Scandinavian peoples lived in relative obscurity, their lives shaped by the challenges of their environment. Their world was one of long winters, dense forests, and a coastline teeming with fish and potential for exploration. These early Scandinavians were skilled farmers, fishermen, and craftsmen, developing a unique culture steeped in mythology and a deep connection to the sea. It was from this backdrop of resilience and adaptation that the Viking Age would erupt onto the world stage. The Viking story is one of remarkable adaptation, cultural exchange, and a lasting legacy that continues to fascinate and inspire us today. The Viking Age, spanning roughly from the late 8th to the 11th centuries, marked a period of unprecedented Scandinavian expansion. Driven by a complex interplay of factors, these seafaring people burst onto the historical scene, leaving an indelible mark on the course of European history. While the exact reasons for this expansion remain a subject of debate among historians, several key factors contributed to the Vikings' sudden rise to prominence. One significant factor was overpopulation in Scandinavia. As the population grew, resources became scarcer, prompting many, particularly young men, to seek their fortunes elsewhere. The promise of wealth and land in more fertile regions proved a powerful motivator for Viking expeditions. Furthermore, the relative weakness of neighboring kingdoms presented tempting targets for raids and plunder. The fragmented political landscape of early medieval Europe provided an opportunity for the Vikings to exploit vulnerabilities and amass wealth through raiding. However, to view the Vikings solely through the lens of violence and plunder would be a gross oversimplification. They were also shrewd traders, establishing extensive trade networks that spanned across Europe and beyond. Viking merchants traded in a wide range of goods, from furs and timber to slaves and luxury items from the east. These trading ventures brought wealth back to Scandinavia and fostered cultural exchange between the Vikings and the societies they encountered. The year 793 AD. On the remote island of Lindisfarne off the coast of Northumbria, a community of monks went about their daily rituals, unaware that their world was about to be shattered. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the monastery, a fleet of longships appeared on the horizon. These were no ordinary vessels, they were sleek, deadly, and bore the unmistakable mark of the Vikings. What followed would send shockwaves through Christian Europe and mark the beginning of the Viking Age. The Vikings, with their characteristic ferocity and disregard for the sanctity of the monastery, descended upon Lindisfarne. The monks, caught completely off guard, were easy prey for the heavily armed raiders. The Vikings pillaged the monastery, making off with its treasures, sacred relics, and even some of the monks themselves, who were sold into slavery. Word of the attack spread like wildfire, striking fear into the hearts of people across Christian Europe. The raid on Lindisfarne was not merely an isolated incident of violence, it was a symbolic event that exposed the vulnerability of Christian Europe to these new, ruthless invaders from the north. The Vikings, previously unknown in these parts, had announced their arrival in the most brutal and shocking manner imaginable. This event marked a turning point in European history, ushering in an era of Viking raids, conquests, and cultural exchange that would last for centuries. The raid on Lindisfarne became a potent symbol of the Vikings' power and brutality, forever etching their name in the annals of history. Section 4. Gods and Myths, Shaping a Worldview. To understand the Vikings, one must delve into the rich tapestry of Norse mythology that shaped their worldview. Their gods were not distant, ethereal beings but powerful forces that actively influenced the lives of mortals. These deities reflected the harsh realities of the Viking world, embodying both the beauty and brutality of nature, the thrill of battle, and the importance of fate. From the All-Father Odin to the mighty Thor and the treacherous Loki, The Norse pantheon was a complex and often contradictory reflection of the Viking psyche. Odin, the one-eyed god of wisdom, war, and death, held a special place in the Viking belief system. He was revered for his wisdom, sought after for his prowess in battle, and feared for his association with the underworld. Thor, the god of thunder, was a symbol of strength and protection, wielding his mighty hammer Mjolnir against the forces of chaos. These gods, along with a host of other deities, goddesses, giants, and mythical creatures, populated the Norse cosmos, their stories passed down through generations in the form of epic poems and sagas. Norse mythology was not merely a collection of fantastical tales but a vital force that permeated every aspect of Viking life. It provided a framework for understanding the world, coping with its uncertainties, and shaping social norms and values. The Vikings believed in a glorious afterlife in Valhalla, where warriors who died bravely in battle would feast and fight for eternity. This belief fostered a warrior ethos that permeated Viking society. The fear of incurring the wrath of the gods or being denied entry into Valhalla served as a powerful motivator for both individuals and the community as a whole. Section 5. Masters of the Waves. The Vikings were, above all, masters of the waves. Their mastery of shipbuilding and navigation allowed them to embark on daring voyages, pushing the boundaries of the known world and leaving an enduring legacy of exploration and discovery. Central to their maritime dominance was the longship, a technological marvel that embodied the Vikings' ingenuity and adaptability. These sleek, versatile vessels were designed for both speed and maneuverability, capable of navigating the open ocean as well as the shallow rivers and coastal waters of Europe. The longship's shallow draft allowed the Vikings to sail far inland, extending their reach deep into enemy territory, and giving them a strategic advantage in raids. Their speed and maneuverability made them formidable warships, capable of outmaneuvering larger, less agile vessels. But the longships were more than just instruments of war. They were also vehicles of exploration and trade, carrying the Vikings to distant lands and facilitating cultural exchange across vast distances. The Vikings' seafaring prowess led them to make groundbreaking discoveries. They established settlements in Iceland and Greenland, braving treacherous seas and harsh conditions to colonize these remote islands. They ventured even further west, reaching the shores of North America centuries before Columbus. The remains of a Viking settlement at Lanso Meadows in Newfoundland, Canada, stand as a testament to their remarkable seafaring abilities and their adventurous spirit. The Vikings' voyages expanded the geographical horizons of their time and left an indelible mark on the history and culture of the regions they explored. Section 6. A brutal trade, Vikings and slavery. While the Vikings are often romanticized for their seafaring prowess and martial exploits, a darker side to their history must also be acknowledged: their deep involvement in the slave trade. Slavery was an integral part of Viking society, providing a source of labor, wealth, and social status. The Vikings acquired slaves through raiding, warfare, and trade, capturing men, women, and children from various parts of Europe and beyond. These slaves, known as thralls, occupied the lowest rung of Viking society and had no legal rights. They performed a wide range of tasks, from domestic labor and agricultural work to skilled crafts and even fighting in the Viking armies. The slave trade was a lucrative enterprise for the Vikings, providing a steady stream of income and contributing to their economic prosperity. Viking raids often targeted wealthy monasteries and settlements, where they could seize not only gold and silver but also valuable human captives. These captives were then transported back to Scandinavia or sold in slave markets across Europe and the Middle East. The Vikings' involvement in the slave trade had a profound impact on the societies they interacted with, contributing to the displacement of populations and the growth of slave markets across Europe. Section 7. Women of the North: Power and Influence. In a world often dominated by men, Viking women enjoyed a surprising degree of freedom and influence. While their lives were undoubtedly shaped by the patriarchal structures of their time, they held a higher social standing and had more legal rights than their counterparts in many other parts of Europe. Viking women played vital roles in their communities, managing households, raising children, and contributing to the economic well-being of their families. Unlike women in many other cultures of the time, Viking women could own property, inherit wealth, and even divorce their husbands under certain circumstances. They had the right to choose their own husbands and could even request a divorce if their husbands mistreated them or failed to provide for them. While men were undoubtedly the primary warriors and leaders in Viking society, women were not entirely excluded from the battlefield. There are accounts of fierce female warriors known as shield maidens who fought alongside men in battle. These women challenged traditional gender roles and demonstrated the strength and resilience that were highly valued in Viking culture. The sagas and myths are filled with tales of powerful female figures, such as the legendary shield maiden Lagertha and the cunning Queen Aslaug, wife of the legendary Ragnar Lothbrok. These stories, while often romanticized, reflect the respect and admiration that Viking women could command within their society.